Welcome back, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you've been having a great week. However, for English voice actors, a part of SAG-AFTRA specifically, it's not looking good. We've got an update. SAG-AFTRA officially made this notice saying Instagram Live. Tune in tomorrow, 5/28 at 3:15 PT. As SAG-AFTRA Interactive Media Agreement Negotiating Committee Chair Sarah Elmaleh and NED and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland discuss and answer questions about the video game negotiations and strike. And check this out, they've got one whole response here reading, SAG-AFTRA's Duncan Crabtree Ireland salary highest among Hollywood unions, exceeding $1 million USD in 2023. So the joke there, for those who don't know, is that's like literally a headline. I think that's like a Variety headline or something. I forget which outlet, but that is literally a headline. But so they go on to like meme that and say, tell SAG-AFTRA VAs to screw off, as the union, quote unquote, rejected the video game final and best offer. Imagine being paid that much money to make your members lose jobs. And look at this, guys. Look at this. I've actually got a video of the live stream. We'll take a look at some of this. Hopefully we can find the best parts, but really quick, a brief refresher of what happened moments before this. As we had previously seen a number of VAs like Chris Turlifera over here, the VA of Capitano in Genshin Impact, saying all of SAG-AFTRA membership got to vote on the interactive strike authorization, and now, even after receiving the last, best, and final offer, SAG is saying they are still negotiating. No, you aren't. It's done. The deal's good. Now let us vote to end this strike. However, this has been a big point of contention with SAG-AFTRA voice actors because a lot of them don't want to accept this deal. A lot of them in the blue sky clique had said that VAs like this were harming the strike and that they shouldn't sign it yet because the deal offered is not good enough. I actually want to make a whole separate video covering that part more specifically, like more thoroughly rather, because like imagine the title, like a VA Civil War. That just sounds so exciting, guys, doesn't it? We could literally have a video about a VA Civil War. I really want to make that video. I'll probably do that tomorrow. Plus, in this one, we already have that whole like official meeting stream thing to watch. It like, hopefully we don't have to watch the whole thing. Hopefully they get to like the point pretty early on in it. But the point being now is that that in of itself may make this video quite long. So yeah, we'll leave the Civil War thing for another one. Some more important things to know really quick though, before we get to the SAG-AFTRA official video. This Genshin Impact post, for example, reading, SAG-AFTRA confirmed they rejected the best and final offer last Friday that was offered to them by the gaming companies, as said in the SAG Q&A that was live today. This person saying, I saw the Q&A they did on Instagram live stream, and one of the important things they mentioned was this. Specifically, the top comment here by the OP, though, says, they are also well aware that gaming companies are starting to use VAs from other countries, as it was brought up in one question, but they seem to not care about it due to their responses. So this, for example, is what we've already seen happening with Hoyoverse and Genshin Impact for Kenichi, of course, hiring Jacob Takanashi in Japan, but hiring him to be the English voice of Kenichi, replacing John Patnoid, who, according to my recollection, was standing in solidarity with the strike for like 6 months until he got replaced. Now I guess he's supporting the strike, but not in solidarity anymore because he got fired. So yeah. But anyways, the next comment reading, do they not realize that means the end for them? If these gaming companies are using other VAs, why would they ever hire SAG again? I'm just a moron, but at this point, I'm almost convinced that the people in charge of the strike are buffoons that cannot see the irreversible amounts of damage they've done to their union VAs and the industry in the United States. Well, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the VAs, a part of SAG-AFTRA, support what they're doing, support these union execs, if you will. They say that the offer's not good enough and they don't want it signed. So let's not forget that. Apparently, the gaming sector is only a small such part of the VA branch that doesn't hurt them. Probably most lucrative VA is still being done for movies and shows, I guess. And even then, their whole VA branch is probably an even smaller part of their whole thing. Most of the stuff they are involved with is movie and TV. This is absolutely true. It is a very small part of the overall amount of actors that the union represents. And when I say actors, this also includes things like stunt performers, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, the VA stuff is still very far behind. And something I've seen some of the union VAs complaining about, saying that they don't feel like the union's really representing them properly, and that they should have their own separate, like, actual VA union, not being a part of SAG-AFTRA. But of course, once again, on the other hand, there are plenty of union VAs who are bootlicking for the union, saying that the union is doing everything perfectly, and they support everything the execs are doing and all that sort of stuff, and they're fighting each other. All of this is to say, though, that yeah, some of these VAs, part of the union, are already being replaced by VAs who are not a part of the union from elsewhere in other countries. So at this rate, it's looking really bad for these union VAs. And of course, the more studios, game studios, that see that they don't need union VAs, and or they can hire non-union VAs from the States, or just get VAs from outside of the States who still know English and they can hire for their English dubs, all that does is continue to show that the union really isn't needed, and the union VAs and their demands really are not needed, and that it's a concern that they don't need to be worried about because they can find other avenues that are better for them. Well, it's going to take more power away from the union, more power overall, but also in the context of this current negotiation, it weakens their negotiating power too. So yeah, it's not going so well for these guys. How does the saying go? I believe the proper move now is point and laugh, something like that. Oh, that takes us over to SAG-AFTRA. So we're going to watch part of that live stream now, and just a quick refresher on who these people are on the stream. That will be SAG-AFTRA Interactive Media Agreement Negotiating Committee Chair Sarah Elmaleh, and NED and Chief Negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland. Duncan Crabtree Ireland, of course, also famous for making the comment about non-union performers being probably of lesser quality, which is not an exclusive opinion of Duncan Crabtree Ireland, as SAG-AFTRA's own website has a number of policies where they also say the same thing, that yeah, people a part of the union, they're just lesser quality, they're just worse actors, they're just a bunch of plebs. All right, let's check out this stream, shall we?
Plenty of time to answer your questions, and there's just, I guess, one other thing I would say before we do that.
Do they seriously have that freaking like noise in the background the whole time? Are you serious? This is supposed to be like the SAG-AFTRA union about one of the most important meetings for their VAs, about like the final best offer, and they just have this freaking noise in the background. Oh my gosh, I hope that's really not going to go on the whole time.
I know this has been a very grueling and long strike, and that everyone is really eager to get back to doing the work that we love. That's why we are negotiating so passionately, is because we love this work so much. And I know I'm also
passionate
very
negotiating.
eager to get back to doing what I love to do, which is to work on games. And to be part of this incredible storytelling and medium of play. I do still truly believe that we can achieve a deal that we can all feel confident and safe about working on, and to get these key protections that we still need. I'm really proud to be a part of this
Duncan's just like nodding.
And the resilience and the adaptability and the passion that has gone.
Oh, what the frick? Wait, the video is still going. What is this stream quality, dude? They're like laggy and there's like background noise.
But yeah, it's been over 10 months, and our members and our allies as well have really shown such impressive resolve and commitment, and support for each other, commitment to achieving a fair contract, and it's been really stunning and moving to me. And
yeah, fair contract.
We've come really far together, and I implore everyone just to stand strong for the.
They've come so far, guys. Their VAs are getting replaced, and they're like losing jobs. They've come so far. It's really impressive, you know, what they've achieved here. Really great stuff.
These final issues, you deserve them. We all deserve them. They will lead to a future of collaboration that we all, I think, want to be part of. And let's just see if we can get this thing across the finish line.
Oh, hold on. Look at the comment here. It's actually talking about what we just brought up, isn't it? And agents are signing. It's something like, okay, let's start with this one at the top, actually. All the commercials, non-union, and now we all wonder if video games will go the same way, as it's already happening a lot. And agents are signing full rosters with non-union because the big union rosters with those that have huge resumes cannot do the non-union. I've seen multiple scripts, and in the breakdowns, it's all non-union, major players. So that's interesting. That's talking about like the actor side of thing, not even VA stuff.
That's all.
Well, I just want to join you in saying how inspired and how appreciative I am of our members and our allies, even our non-member allies, who have stood strong and united during the course of the strike. I know it is a long time. I know it's grueling, like you said. I know it's had.
Yeah, guys, let's give a shout out to the allies like John Patton Wad standing in solidarity and getting fired. Great job.
Real impacts on people, and every strike does.
Real impacts.
But we've been fighting for things that are really meaningful, and I think
you had a real
these
impact,
three
huh?
pieces are both achievable and important. I also want to just take a minute to say thank you to the committee. I know that there's a lot of energy out there right now. A lot of people are frustrated with how long the strike has gone on. And there's a lot of people who have different opinions about what we should do or what's important or what the priorities are. But I just want to say, whether you agree with or disagree with the committee or any individual member of the committee or whatever, this committee, these members have devoted a vast amount of their personal lives to fighting for this contract. And they've done it not because it's their paid job to do it or for any other reason than because they care about helping make sure that our members are protected.
Is that really it? Is there maybe they're scared of getting harassed publicly, being called a scab and all that too? Just saying, like, maybe that's a part of it, bro. Hopefully they get to the discussion about the last and final offer thing soon. Like, it's funny watching this, but that freaking noise in the background, sorry about that, guys. That's not me. That's these union professionals right here representing their people with apparently a wind tunnel going on or something.
Is the contract that members deserve, and that we achieve the best possible contract at the table. So I just want to say to everybody out there, it's totally great to agree or disagree with the committee. This is a union where we welcome differences of opinion, but I hope that everybody will really recognize and respect the commitment and contribution that your committee members have made on your behalf as part of doing this process. I also want to just encourage all of you who are watching to put your questions in the box, as I mentioned at the beginning, in the question box, not in the comments, and we will get to as many as we can in the time that we have. So let's see what questions we've got. First question, since they're sticking to the LBFO, what is the next step before membership votes to ratify?
That would be last best and final offer.
Yeah. So first of all, the premise of the question I think is incorrect. I mean, when you say they're sticking to the LBFO, if what you mean by that is management has said there's a last best and final, so obviously they're not going to make any changes to that because they've said it's last best and final. History is replete with last best and final offers that were not the ultimate agreement that was reached between the union and the employer group.
So I'll give you guys some context on that really quick. We'll just read these two paragraphs. This is from 2023. SAG-AFTRA said there were still several essential items that they couldn't agree with during their negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, including artificial intelligence guidelines. Studios put forth this last best and final offer over the weekend, with top executives making clear that they would not make further concessions. SAG-AFTRA spent time Sunday and Monday evaluating the deal. Now, obviously, we're not going to go into a whole bunch of context about this different deal from back in 2023. The point being, though, when Duncan Crabtree Ireland is citing that they've dealt with last best final offers before, he's likely referring to this situation and perhaps others. I'm not familiar with others, but I am familiar with this one, so I'm referencing this one. The difference now, though, is these companies are already getting VA talent elsewhere that are not a part of the union. So, like, on one hand, and I even mentioned this in my prior video as well, I mentioned how, like, it doesn't necessarily mean it really is the last offer. A company can always walk that back and change their mind, right? Like, it's not like 100% set in stone is done. But it is important to remember the context I just mentioned, where things are already going very south for the union. And I don't know what the divide is, like, percentage-wise, if it's 50% versus 50%. But the point is, there's already, like, this civil war going on with the union, with some of the VAs wanting this offer taken, some don't want it taken. So there's a lot of other context around all of this besides, like, hypothetically, if this really is the last best offer or not. But let's see what else Duncan Crabtree Ireland has to say.
And so I don't assume that management is or is not sticking to the last best and final. We went back to them end of last week with some ideas for moving on those three pieces that I mentioned. In fact, we've publicly told everyone what those pieces are. Management is thinking about those thoughts that we've delivered to them, and we're expecting to hear back from them. So I don't think there's any further step to take until management comes back and gives us a response to what we floated with them. Depending on what that response is, that will determine what our next steps are, and we'll keep you posted. And so obviously we're doing this IG Live today as one way of keeping this outreach going and making sure that people get a chance to ask their questions.
Hold on, what is this comment? I've been wanting to pause for like the last minute when this thing popped up. It says, why did y'all approve the AI short? Did they actually post an AI short on on their Instagram or something? Could you imagine? That'd actually be hilarious. Like, it's so out of touch, dude. I don't know what that really is about though, but that sounds like it could be some like hilarious stuff if we saw what happened there. I'm not sure how much more of this I'm gonna watch now. The whole wind tunnel thing's annoying, and that might be like the best part we just got. Let's see like another minute more, so at the very least.
Feel confident we'll have another informational meeting as soon as we have information to share, and then that makes sense. So, you can expect continued dialogue from us. So, as far as membership voting to ratify, nothing would go out to the members to be ratified until the committee and the national board review it and determine that they want it to go that direction. Okay. Next.
Okay, one other thing I'll add to. Even though I mentioned how like SAG and AFTRA has dealt with last best final offers before and it turned out not to be the case, that historical precedent doesn't guarantee you that in this situation, these different companies are going to walk back their last best final offer either. They could be making an error in their analysis of that, thinking like, oh, we've dealt with things like this before. They might keep negotiating with us. Meanwhile, it's different companies in different circumstances. They may indeed be in for a very rude awakening. We'll have to see. Maybe the companies do keep negotiating, but maybe they don't. Play.
Well, the question is, how close is the deal? Well, that depends. Yeah. If the employers agree to these 3 points that we have, then the deal is done. If the employers come back to us and say, we aren't going to agree to these 3 things, but here's something we would be willing to entertain, then we'll have to discuss that with the committee and figure out, what our next steps are. So the deal is as close or as far as it takes to address those core issues and to make sure that we have an agreement we can recommend for ratification to the membership.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do now, guys. I'm going to cut this here. I'll watch a little bit on my own now, like I'll maybe watch like 5 more minutes of this on my own, see if anything else interesting pops up. And if it does, I'll include it in the video. And if not, we'll start getting to the outro. Okay, so it turns out the next question is also interesting too. And look at this. In the comments, we got Chris Turliafera himself. Mentioned him at the beginning of the video. He's responding to Ariana Ratner. Says, ugh, no more meetings. Chris saying, agreed, let us vote. That takes us to the next question.
Next question. We've heard that at least 8 AAA union games have exited the union since the beginning of May. What steps are you taking to prevent the union from losing more jobs? Well, I'll start on this and then Sarah can weigh in if she wants to. I have heard from certain back channel sources about some games that have either threatened to or started casting, for example, outside the United States or with non-union workers. The fact of the matter is that it is possible for some of these games to shift to casting and production outside the U.S. As far as producing in the U.S., if there are signatory producers who are doing games non-union, then you can expect us to take legal action to address that.
Okay, but the question, unless I'm like mistaken, the question wasn't talking specifically just about signatories though, right? That being, to my understanding, people who are like in a union agreement already, which therefore Duncan would be saying that they're breaking the agreement, breaking the contract that they had signed, which of course SAG would then, which would then of course open them up to legal liability from SAG suing them. But again, I don't think that was the framing of the question. And also, like this whole thing about like hearing about back channels. Sure, I guess like he's hearing about that apparently, but we're already seeing like in the public that this is already happening too. So it's not just like a back channel rumor.
Because they're not entitled to do that.
Regarding, companies looking for non-union talent to hire from outside the States, for example.
But I think the most important step that we're taking is looking to try and reach an agreement. But reaching an agreement doesn't involve just capitulating to the employer position. I'll remind everybody that there was a point not too long ago where there were some people who said that we should just accept buyouts as part of the deal and make that deal. And right now, the last best and final that was put on the table with us does not include those buyouts because we pushed back on it. So I think that it's more nuanced than just a yes or no. And that's why we're actively engaged in communicating with the employer group in the hopes of reaching a deal quickly. That would obviously be the best thing that we could do to help make sure that that production resumes and continues quickly.
All right, look at this comment. It's Ariana Ratner again. She says, 12 gaming companies have already left. Let's please end this soon so more don't leave. 500 roles that could have gone to SAG actors. Just like a bunch of comments saying, let the actors vote. All right, I'm actually skipping ahead a little bit. I gotta go soon too, man. But I think that's like the main stuff. The next part I'm gonna show you, and this will be the last part that I'm gonna go over, is him talking about like why people aren't allowed to vote yet, apparently. So we'll watch that real quick.
What's the next question is, what is the voting process? Can members actually vote right now? Why can't members vote directly on the last, best, and final? So first of all, the voting process, it depends what you mean by the voting process. In several of our informational meetings, we've done some straw polls where the members who attended that meeting got a chance to vote, to give their input on various options that the committee was considering. As far as a formal member ratification vote, that would only happen after the committee and or ultimately the national board decides to send an agreement out to the members for a ratification vote. And when that happens, that's when members will get the right to vote yes or no on that, and that'll be a binding vote as opposed to the advisory straw polls that we've done in the committee so far.
And that would be the committee vote first, and then that would go to the board for review, and then a board vote, and then...
Right. So
sounds like a very ineffective system. All that work just to try and see if people want to keep negotiating or accept the last, best, and final offer that's currently on board. Great job, executives. Great job representing your actors.
Oh, exactly. And so that's how it works in all of our contracts. So every contract, if you're a SAG-AFTRA member, every contract you've ever gotten a postcard to vote on has gone through that same process, which is the committee reaches an agreement, it goes to the national board for approval or the executive committee, depending on the contract, and then it goes out to members for their vote.
Oh my gosh, whatever. So yeah, I think that's like the main stuff I was looking for that I wanted to go over. Hopefully you found that to be interesting, and that is like half of the stream, so there's still more to it, of course, but I think I heard pretty much all I need to hear. And also, I am out of time. I gotta be to my Muay Thai gym, dude. Like, my coach wants me to do a specific drill with one of our fighters right now. Ultimately, I really don't care what they do, to be quite frank. I just think the union's very corrupt, and it's better for VAs to leave the union if they can. But in terms of like if they sign or don't, I really don't care. It is funny though, ultimately, if they keep refusing to sign and that like backfires on them, that'll be amusing. But you know, I'm not saying they should sign or not, because again, I am not like that involved with this. I have no part in it. So let me know what you think though in the comments. Thank you for tuning in. Consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the coverage, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.